All right, everyone. Welcome back to Measurement Talks. Today on the docket, we got a little bit of a dip into the Temu pullback, and then talking about the state of the industry, the report that like C2C and Veros and folks put together. There's some interesting data points that we wanted to talk about, and then for our evergreen topic, there's a bunch of people more and more talking about retail now. And I know, Brian, you guys are thinking a ton about retail. And so wanted to learn from your perspective, when a digitally native brand goes retail, what are some of the things that they need to think about? And especially as it pertains to measurement, because as we know, it can become a black box very fast. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So why don't the Temu thing is honestly the funniest. So why don't we just start there? I feel like David Herman memed his way.
This man led the charge. We should all be thankful for David Herman for his efforts in taking down Temu. It should be a holiday after.
Yeah, I know, right? My worldview is so colored by the time I spend on X that when he was like, "Wow, what do you know? Like my efforts worked," I was like, "This is too funny. This is too good." Why do you think they pulled back?
So they cited it to being. It looks like they got over. So the number one concern they raised was concerns over what's happening with TikTok and U.S. Government and U.S. Department of Homeland Security setting their eyes on what would they call unfair tactics, competitive tactics from China and Chinese companies. And so I think there's, that's starting to get some pressure. The Biden administration also announced some tariffs for different categories. Electric vehicles, for example, are going to be tariffed 100% now. And then there's a few other items for like batteries, resource goods, and I think that just probably raises a lot of concern for Temu as an organization in terms of whether they're going to realize the ROI of their investment. They're certainly in the red, right? I think they mentioned, I got to fact check these numbers, but I saw somewhere around 20 to 30% of their total sales came from the US. And they were heavily investing in North America. And so they're certainly not getting an ROI. I think the goal and tactic there was market share and then turn profit through LTV and sort of gamified, incentivized buying in the app once you've downloaded the app. So I might say data collection. But I think that they probably just, saw how much money they were losing in North America. There's a massive risk and exposure that they're never even going to realize that ROI if future and current administrations decide to place heavy tariffs on these goods. And so they're probably now just deciding that the juice is not worth the squeeze. There's too much risk and exposure. So my understanding is they're focusing attention to Europe. And, that'll be interesting to see how those ad dollars behave in a European market, which already has higher CPMs than North America. So
Exactly.
If we felt an impact, I imagine Europe is going to feel, European advertisers are really going to feel a dent in their cost efficiency and advertising efficiency.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think their stated reasons were too easy almost. It's like, hey, we don't know. Seems like the government is unpredictable. It's like, guys, the single most business friendly country in the world is America. Okay. so it doesn't totally add up. When you can like point to like, oh, what about this thing here and that thing there? It's like, let's just be serious. If you zoom back out at a macro level, the reason why so much business happens in America is the consumer is stronger and the business environment is more predictable. Sorry, not predictable necessarily, but more friendly to investment, basically, right? More capitalistic than any other country in the world. And so it's like, yeah, I get like, hey, there's this thing here and that thing there, but most other businesses, what they would just do is be like, okay, how do we adopt? They wouldn't be like, hey, time to leave. And so it feels like a red herring, honestly, to me. It feels like a red herring. I think like what is the bigger issue is that Temu just realized eventually, like, oh, Wish didn't work? Wait a second. Why didn't Wish.com work? And it's like, and they like eventually got there where they're like, oh my God, like it is actually possible that the economics will never work.
Interesting.
That's what I think happened, and I think it got worse because they finally realized that like the advertising spend is in the U.S. in general is getting less and less efficient. I mean, we know this from like ATT, all these other things, but advertising spend in the U.S. in general is getting so much less efficient that I suspect that they were like, okay, what is like a reasonable strategy shift if we don't think that this is going to make it, and we're like reasonably penetrated in the US anyway, and incremental penetration is now like way more expensive than
Right.
this like first amount that we got. And I actually literally think that like, but they can't say that because as soon as you say that, then like then it means that your business can't grow. Versus if you blame like an exogenous factor, then it's like, oh, like they could come back if something changes. And so you see this a lot with corporations where they never want to blame the thing that is going to be persistent by definition. They always choose something that looks temporary. And so it's like I always have my skepticism up whenever somebody chooses the temporary thing versus the persistent thing.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And unfortunately, we don't have visibility into Timo's financials and how they receive capital, but there is, without a reasonable doubt, that they have backing you know, from government departments. And like investors, you have to show promise of growth or your funding could be cut off. So I think what you're saying makes sense. I also, part of me felt that it was also like a fluke. Like they're just saying that, to provide the optics of, hey, don't worry about us. We're not a threat. Don't even spend your time worrying about policy making. We're gonna go ahead and bow out of here. And then in the background, they'll continue their efforts. Maybe not to the same level of investment as they once did, and they needed to kind of like use this as a sort of an advantageous moment to ease some pressure off of them. But I don't expect Timu to just go away. I think what will likely happen is they're going to continue to, in the background, continue customer acquisition efforts, maybe not again to the same volume, and they'll just shift the aggressiveness that they had in North America to Europe. But I imagine that they're still going to have some semblance of spend in market. Maybe not 4 Super Bowls. They might cut that back down to like 1 or 2 Super Bowl ads next year. But I do believe that there'll still be a player in the market, and that they may be. Part of me believes that this was just more of a, to your point, a red herring to, in a way, take some pressure off of them.
Yeah, totally. I mean, speaking of which, in general, from the report that was sent out, the CTC report, looks like on average spend is up pretty meaningfully this year relative to last year, and discounting is up. Sounds like Temu. Spend up, discount up. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
We're all Temu actually on the.
We're all Temu. Yeah.
We're all Temu. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, can I tell you something that it reminded me of when you were talking about the discount going up? You remember last September that you were telling me on, was it Labor Day? I think you were like,
Yep.
dude, the consumer has always been here. They've just been waiting for a deal. Like when you were talking to me about this, that was like your voice came back into my head from like 9 months ago. And I was like, huh, I wonder if like most advertisers like realize that. What's your read?
That's exactly right. And as soon as you started saying that, I was like, I know what he's about to say. That's exactly right. I think, look, there's so much negative press right now about the economy, that I think like even the consumers that have the disposable income are, you see this negative price. It sort of primes you to say, okay, well, look for the deal, look for the discount. Give me something that makes me feel good about spending money right now. And so the best form of that is going to be a discount. And that's exactly right. There's this sort of price compression that's coming downward with due to the state of the economy, quote unquote. Not saying it, I don't know, no opinion on the state of it, but just, the press certainly doesn't help here. And I think that is causing consumers to only look for the deals, and the brands that are suffering performance wise, um, try some discounting. Unfortunately, maybe your low moving SKUs that aren't moving a ton, try to discount those as sort of a way to very safely test this hypothesis and then see if that gets some traction. Because it's exactly right. I think people are just looking for deals right now, and it's a lot of brands are mindful of that and are responding accordingly, and that's what's creating, per the report, I believe it was a 16% increase in discounts, versus trailing 12 months. So the vast majority of the market is leaning into discounting, which just further perpetuates this, right? Like, because then consumers are getting more discounts, and so now they're expecting it from everywhere they shop.
Yeah, totally. I think, you know what I think? I think it's okay. Yeah, I think it's okay. Um, as long as over time the way that a discount works or the way that an offer works is actually like economically accretive to the brand, because look, ultimately we need an economy that's like durable and sustaining. And so like the bad outcome is like the consumer expectation shifts so much that brands can't like reasonably accomplish that. That's like a, yeah, what was that company? Oh my god, that's like a Groupon outcome. It's like
Mm.
it exists only for a period of time and then it just disappears, and then the whole thing has to reset, and it's like super frustrating, and everybody loses actually when that happens. Um, so I think like that's like the bad outcome. I think short of that, I think it's like you can find good ways to give people the feeling of getting like a good offer. So like some of the things we're seeing, just for context, is like actually like bundles or gifts with purchase are changing behavior pretty significantly,
Okay.
and that helps a lot on the unit economics, as you know, from the perspective of you're only shipping once in a bundle. So you're, by definition, you're actually unit economic positive when you're bundling, even though you're discounting. And so, and like every brand operator knows these things, but I think the way that offers are constructed are going to become more and more creative, basically, such that the net unit economics are actually better. Now, the kerfuffle is like, how do you create those offers on your website? That I think is like incredibly painful. I'm biased, obviously, but I think
Why do you say this?
what makes you say this?
Yeah.
I'm like extremely
Is that a
biased,
problem you solve?
but I have genuinely seen like good offer construction lead to extremely high unit economic improvement. Yeah,
Yeah. The biggest thing is, how do you measure that, right? Because now you're talking about this sort of very three-dimensional economics of how you
totally.
acquire a customer, and it could even impact the LTV of your customer too. Like, I see a lot of people do, oh, we sell lotion, and we need to do a bundle, and we only sell this one lotion. So what we're going to do is we're going to sell a 3-pack, right? It's like, great, you sell the 3-pack, but now you've just saturated your customer, and they're not going to come back for 6 months. And consumers unfortunately get bored.
Dude,
So
the
am I going to
problem is
really
like,
restock on this lotion, or am I going to go buy a different lotion next time because I'm just like so with this one lotion? And so I think measuring sort of a LTV cohort, it is. I'm trying to think of better solutions, but the only one I can think of is you do cohort based LTV measurement, and you measure it down at the contribution margin per level, because now you have to, packaging, your shipping one product, one bundle versus separate, the stickiness of that product, getting people to come back, as well as any additional discounting that you're having to do. And so if you measure it at a contribution margin level and actually look at the volume of profit, not even just like the percentage doesn't really matter here as much as what is the volume of profit generated over a 6-month period. That's probably where you get a good, the best, I think, measurement into the profitability and the scalability of an offer, right? So that you don't accidentally oversaturate your consumer and they're not coming back, and thus your LTV is limited, or you're offering too much, you're giving away the farm, and now you've got these like hidden costs that sometimes get overlooked, eating into your margin. And things look great, ROAS is solid, CAC is great, but where's the bottom line? Getting eaten up by these little miscellaneous costs. That's the fastest. It's the only thing I can think of that will give you confidence. And like, it's like something you got to start now, because if you're talking about like 3 to 6 month cohorts, you're really testing now ahead of Black Friday, right? To know how you're going to deploy your holiday promotions of Black Friday. So some food for thought, I suppose. You were going to
yeah,
say something.
no, actually, the Black Friday thing. I was gonna say something different, and then the Black Friday thing though triggered a thought around. I've had some conversations already where people are getting nervous about whether or not they should like test new offers and things like that before Black Friday, and I'm like, you got like, don't be that
Now's the
like if you're
time.
gonna be that nervous. If you're gonna be that nervous, your Black Friday is going to fail with certainty. Like, I mean, I haven't said that to those people directly, but it's like, wow, like you're unwilling to test because you like think this thing is going to work, but that like conviction without data is exactly how you flop. Uh, yeah. So
You've got the
anyway,
next 3 months: June, July, and August. June, July, and August for me are like,
testing
they're
months.
the preseason. It's preseason. It's
Yeah.
testing. It is literally have the conviction to scrutinize every part of your entire funnel, identify what is the best funnel, the most optimized funnel, and then set it up. October, November, and December, before October, November, and December, and sometimes even January. So, yeah, I not testing your offers and just continuing to do the same thing is a very dangerous game. You're sort of riding on your ability to do like for it to work the same way that it did last year, and fingers crossed that no other brand is changing up their offers, because that's the only environment that yours will work. And that's certainly not the case, as you see from this month's data. There's 16% more discounts this year, so that's just going to translate more aggressively into holiday. So people do not stay static. Brands do not stay static. They're going to keep optimizing, and you got to do the same.
Yeah, totally. That makes me wonder, you guys have a new channel that you are starting
Oh,
to distribute through,
yes.
uh, which is retail, which is everybody's mecca channel, I guess. As I'm learning, I got told. I'll tell you a funny story. I'm not going to name anybody, obviously, but Shreyas, my co-founder, went to the Snap Summit and met up with somebody and who's like well known in the digital space, and that person was like talking about like an apparel company, and like who I would say is like a hot apparel company. And so he was like asking Shreyas, like, hey, how much do you think they do in their best retail store, like single store? How much revenue do you think they do in a single day? It turns out that in a single retail store, this company does $1 million a day in revenue. And his point of that story was just that like eventually everybody sells in retail and it becomes a major channel. And I know you guys have just started this journey, if I'm not mistaken. And so
Mhm.
I guess, but with retail comes all of the pain of retail. So you don't own the customer, you don't own the data, which is like we're like going in a circle. It's like this is why D2C started. It's like because you don't know anything, and so then you started selling direct to consumer. I guess how do you think about the retail expansion and help me understand? I mean, you're a very data driven guy. Like, what data are you getting? What data are you not getting? And how are you thinking about planning for it in the future?
Yeah. I mean, I'll start off by saying you have to be where your consumers shop. And in the US, retail makes up, man, the last time I looked at the stat, it was 80%. I'm sure that's come down now. It's
Yeah, yeah,
probably
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
70 to 75%. So the US, 70 to 75% of CPG sales are in retail, mostly mass market, pharma, grocer, and specialty retailers. That that is the overwhelming amount of consumers that literally go drive to a store and shop, and that's where they do discovery, that's where they purchase. So it would be foolish of us to not be in retail. And I think that every brand's dream is you get in retail and the sales come, right? Like it's incremental, it's a
I'll tell
discovery
you,
platform.
dude. Can I
That's
tell
not
you?
that's not the case.
I'm going to tell you
Yeah.
another funny story. Again, I'm not going to name. I'll tell you the name afterward. But there's a guy who sells sparkling flavored beverages who happens to be
Okay.
an SF. So I've like met him in person a bunch of times. So anyway, this guy, we were like at a dinner together, and he was just like, "Dude, Rishabh, you want to know the truth? The truth is, the dream is to get a contract with Costco, and then you just sell pallets and pallets to Costco, and they just move pallets and pallets of your product, and you just sit back." And he apparently knows founders for whom that has actually happened, specifically with Costco. And I'm like, you know what? I kind of get it because at Costco, it is like a consumer retailer, but you're also getting SMB B2B, and
Oh
that's
yeah.
like totally underappreciated to the average person. But like, yeah, I get it, man. Costco's amazing.
Let me write that note to self. Get in Costco laid back. All right. We're gonna we're gonna make that one of the quarterly goals for this upcoming quarter. Um yeah, but the reality is like it, certain retailers, Costco, yeah, absolutely, that's probably gonna happen just because of the mass, like just the volume that you can turn. But the majority of retailer relationships you're going to start off with, you're going to get limited to a certain footprint, unless it's like Walmart. Walmart is apparently has a reputation for rolling you out everywhere and then deciding how you succeed. But the majority are going to put you in a limited number of stores. It's going to be kind of like a certain distribution, some A stores, which A stores are like their flagships, some B stores, they're kind of okay, average, and then some C stores, the stores that just kind of suck for them. They want to see like how do you perform across this? Like, can you move C store volume? Like that'd be awesome. Or and can you even turn on an A store? So that's how you normally get activated. A lot of that's a trial, and I think initially, early on in the relationship, what D2C brands have to consider is that you are there to serve the retailer. Like you're there to prove yourself, and you prove yourself by driving as much traffic, website and foot traffic to turn units to get sales. And yes, there's some discovery. You're going to organically move some units, but chances are, unless you're like got some prime time spot in merchandising, you're going to be on this bottom shelf with the cobwebs, and people are going to walk by your product not knowing that it's there. So you're going to have to take a little bit of action, a little bit of marketing to inform people, especially those that are in market. Hey, we exist. We're here. We're down the street from you. Go buy right now. And I think that's sort of a challenge that wasn't lost on us, but we like I remember the excitement when we signed with Target, and we were like, oh my gosh, like this is it. We're gonna sell pallets and we're gonna lay back. But that it's in reality that you do have to move units. Now, to your second question or third question of like how do you think about the data, and so ironically measuring store level data is pretty easy. It's as
Oh
simple
yeah,
as
totally.
me.
Yeah, store level sell
So
through.
easy.
Most of these people give you all of the data because
I get this beautiful
yeah.
spreadsheet and it tells me all the stores, the zip codes. I know if they're an A store, a B store. I know how much inventory they have. I know how many units I sold that week. And I also know how much ad spend went into that address because I can segment my campaigns by address and do 5 mile radius targeting. And I can like do some simple match market testing of let's deploy $1,000 a day on these 15 stores and see if we can like get them to deviate from their average 7-day average units. And so the measurement there is so simple. It's more black and white. You can actually for free do some stuff on your side to understand the halo effect of your online digital ads. Online is where it gets a little bit complicated because the people that are going to go and buy from you in retail are they're just going to go and buy from you from retail, right? Like there's some incrementality there. Um, if they really want the convenience, they're probably going to go to Amazon instead anyway. So like, there's not a lot of cannibalization, is what I'm trying to say. Like the cannibalization that you would feel is already happening if you're selling on Amazon. So like net, you might have like a 5% move, between channels. Digital online, that's where I think cannibalization becomes super ambiguous. And you pair that up with the lack of analytics. Like earlier today, and I told you this before we jumped on. Earlier today, I was setting up some campaigns. I got this amazing creative that speaks to Target, and I'm looking at this ad, and I'm writing the ad copy, and I'm going, man, like I should point this ad to Target.com to our PDP.
Yeah, totally.
And I sat there and I was like, but how do I measure that? Like this is such a great ad, and I want to point it to Target, but like how do I?
Facebook clicks.
I mean, I guess.
That's like
But
your best option right now, right? It's just like,
yeah,
hey,
that's the
look
only
at the
thing I've
like,
got.
and you literally optimize to clicks. Because what else are you gonna optimize optimize
you
to?
know, but no, but like you say that there's a little bit of like, yeah, I could do that, but does every click translate into a sale? I kind of need like a double opt-in almost here. It's tricky. It's the bottom line. It's so hard to measure and understand what your ad dollars are doing for digital retail. And stuff that's happening already. Like I've got a lot of campaigns that speak to, hey, we are in Target. They mention Target, but they point to my PDP. That said, I know for a fact that people see that message and go, oh, you're in Target. Let me just go to target.com and search for the product. Or now they're like, let me do research on this product, on this brand. So they Google us. And what do you know? Boom, Target shows up on the shopping tab on Google Shopping on the SERP. And so now it's, you know, maybe some people click on that, maybe some people click on our website, but there's now further cannibalization because the people that are going to buy online now have many more options to buy from. And
Totally.
so I that's the challenges that I face are one, measurement for online sales and the halo effect of my current awareness, the awareness that I'm driving to online. Two, understanding what is the cannibalization and the share shift that's happening. Am I driving incremental sales online, or am I just simply driving my own customers to target.com now? Um, and three would be just general activation. If I intentionally wanted to, send traffic to Target, how do I get a feedback loop to know if to optimize, right? Like, to your point, like the only thing I have is clicks. So well, if I'm putting all my traffic to target.com and Target isn't sending me data on their website, behavior, all I can do is look at click-through rate and go, well, that one's the most engaging ad, so let's just put more money behind that one. So those are some of the challenges. I'm thinking about building a having a custom landing page built, where people can click and then I can look at that data. But that takes time and resourcing. So, not to, we try to keep this very objective, and we try not to show, but I will say something that I am trying, and I was talking to your product team about this, is using you guys for building a sort of a page where I can at least track engagement. So if they click on my ad, great. And then I present two options: buy online, buy in Target, buy at Best Buy. Now you guys can provide to me what is the click through on each of those buttons. And then I can now, at minimum, start to get an understanding of what is the potential halo effect, because we still don't know how many people actually click on Target and buy from Target. We still don't know. But more importantly, I start to understand what could be the share shift. Like if I see that 50% of people click on buy from us online, and then 50% of people click on buy at Target, now I know, like, oh wow, consumer perception for Target and the affinity to buy at Target is actually higher than our D2C. So hold on, there might actually be some material halo effect here, or sorry, cannibalization here that's happening from online, from us to Target or retail. So
Yeah,
I have
I
those
think.
things queued up. I'm excited for those to get some data on that at least.
Yeah, I think the thing that I'm most excited about, honestly, is like there's a company Micmac, which has like historically been the primary player in this space. And one of the things that I underappreciated about what they do is because they give you all of the options. So unlike just a landing page where the only option is like you go target ad, the only button is go to target, and then like that's more like, hey, just double checking that you actually want to go to Target. They give you all the options of all the different places you could buy it. That's actually useful because of what you said, because you discover what the consumer actually wants, and or where their preferences lie, because now you can actually split it
Mm-hmm.
where you have a regular ad and you show all the options, and you have a target specific ad and you show all the options. And just by looking at the differences between those two things, you can tell the difference between, oh, okay, people are clicking on Target because I told them to, versus actually in both cases, 50% of people are now clicking on Target, which is telling you something totally different, because it's like, hey, actually in my regular ad, they're still going to Target. That's a little bit of a kerfuffle, because I would want for the preference to be my site, or maybe
Right.
not, right? Like depending on your strategy, right?
Right.
Like you said, there could be a time where your strategy is, I really want people to be aware that you can go to Target, and so maybe you want to send them to the site because the Target website does this nice thing where it checks your local store when you're on the website, and it tells you whether or not it is in, this is specific to Target, but it tells you whether or not it's in your local store, and so you could drive a lot of foot traffic. And so like there's like a lot of, but you have to know if you are actually executing against your strategy or if something random is happening.
Well,
That's the problem, right? That, I mean, that's the whole point of measurement in
yes.
general. But I find this like whole space very, very interesting, actually.
Yeah, it's complicated because it's been out of reach, and I think that innovation has been very laggard due to the fact that the players that were in that space haven't been the DTC players. Like, you're starting to get more and more, and collectively, we're all like, guys, this is broken. This could be a lot better. So I think it's going to pave a way for more innovation, which the retailers will benefit from due to existing tech and platforms just being complacent. I mean, you're talking about $1 million deals to very just hideously show three buttons. It's there's a lot of opportunity there in that space. Um, the order of operations too is, you said earlier, well, if you want to send people to Target, but back to the original point, uh, you need to you as a D2C brand need to prove yourself with these retailers. When you prove yourself as a brand and you show the retailer that you can move units, you start to unlock benefits and abilities to get better real estate, more signage, end caps. It gives you the ability to, make a case for, you know, having more shelf space in the store as well. And so that that unlock is where you now can use retail as a discovery channel, because now you are in a better line of sight that when people walk by that aisle, they stop and go, wait a second, what is this, nude? What is this? And they start to pick it up, and you start to now become a discovery channel. And that is sort of that is the goal of a lot of D2C brands. Like, a lot of D2C brands look at it for wholesale distribution, yes, but there's still so many steps along the way before you get to this discovery channel where you can, as the friend from Costco said, lay back. So we've got to we've got to definitely like cross that chasm. That's what we're crossing right now, and that's where you have this sort of beautiful relationship between D2C and retail, where and I've heard this from a lot of brands as well. Actually, D2C almost ends up just being the business to break even to pay for the advertising that then drives retail sales, because that ends up being 60 to 70% of your revenue stream, right? Per the Lululemon example. And D2C is only there to cash flow advertising dollars to pay for marketing. Not a bad
Yeah.
business. You
Yeah,
have to put a
totally. I
lot of
mean,
ego at the door, though, because it's like you're giving up, those Lululemon customers. They don't ever go back to Lululemon. But do I have any ego in that? If people are buying, hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars of purchase orders, I'm if I'm moving $1 million worth of units at one store in one day, I have no ego on that whatsoever. Please do not tell me who these people are. Just just submit the purchase order. I would rather manage one relationship than manage the relationship of 1 million+ customers. So yeah, it's we're back to square one in this evolution of D2C, but it's not grounded on data, and I think there's a lot more innovation in the space.
yeah, totally. Awesome. Dude, this was a great discussion. We will see you all in the next one.